Hi, thanks for joining me. I hope you're well. In this lesson, we're going to look at applying 16th notes on the snare drum to change the feel of a groove. Let's get to it. In each of the examples in these videos, the framework which will not change will be the constant string of eighth notes being played on the hi-hat. The grooves are going to be played in a 4/4 time, eighths on the hi-hat, beat 2 and 4 will be marked with the snare drum on the backbeat, and the bass drum will be playing on beat 1, 3 and the an of 3. Let's just have a look at the framework for the 16th notes to be applied to with the rhythm. This is how it sounds. So we're now playing a basic groove in 4/4 time. Let's now apply a 16th note on the snare drum to change the feel of that groove. So the first note that we're going to add will be the da of beat 2 on the snare drum. Let's have a listen. So that one additional note on the da of 2 is completely changed how that rhythm now feels and sounds. Let's add another 16th note to the rhythm. We'll play this note on the E of beat 3. So we now have two 16th notes added on the snare drum being played on the da of 2 and the E of 3. Let's have a listen. Let's now add another 16th note to the da of beat 4. So the extra 16th note now is being played on the final 16th note available within the bar. Let's now take away those additional 16th notes that we've placed, and we'll start with a new one that's going to be played on the E of beat 1. This again will completely change the feel of how that original rhythm sounds. So with the additional 16th note being placed on the E of beat 1, that has completely changed the feel of the rhythm. Let's now add another 16th note to the da of beat 2, and let's have a listen to how that sounds. Let's now take away those additional 16th notes. We're now going to place a new 16th note on the da of beat 1. This now creates a quick double being played on the snare drum. So we'll have a snare drum played by itself on the da of beat 1, followed by a snare drum with the hi-hat coming down on beat 2. So now we're comfortable with playing that phrase. Let's again add the 16th note to the da of beat 2, and let's have a listen to how that sounds. Let's now take away those 16th notes on the snare drum. We're now going to put the 16th note back on the E of beat 1 and also the An of beat 1. Although we're looking at adding 16th notes on the snare drum, one of these extra notes do fall on the An, which is with the 8th note with the hi-hat. But by putting that here, that just gives it a different flavour to how the groove sounds. So by placing the 16th note on the E of 1 and the An of 1, that drastically changes the feel of the rhythm. Let's now add another 16th note to the E of beat 4. This is how that sounds. So in the rhythm just played, we've now got a double on the snare drum being played with the hi-hat coming down on beat 4, and then the snare drum being played by itself on the E of beat 4. Again, giving it a different feel to all the previous grooves that we've played so far. Let's now add another 16th note to the da of beat 2. This is how this sounds. So there's now a thicker texture to the groove with the amount of 16th notes that we're adding to the snare drum. Let's add an extra one to the E of beat 3. Let's now add one more 16th note to this groove. We're going to place that on the da of beat 4. This is how it sounds. So we've taken the original rhythm of the snare drum being played on 2 and 4, bass drum being played on 1, 3 and the An of 3, and we've added the 16th note snare drums into different places just to change the feel that's in the texture of the rhythm that's being played there. Let's now have a little bit of fun with this. We can go through these rhythmic examples and play them in different ways. So here's an example of me playing just one bar of each of the rhythms that we've looked at in these exercises. Thanks for spending that time with me looking through these rhythmic examples of adding 16th notes on the snare drum to a groove. If you have any questions or you'd like any further information, please check out my website www.daveforster.co.uk. Take care.